Joe grows export quality alfalfa hay in the Sacramento Valley. This year, he had a lot of problems with alfalfa caterpillars and western yellow-striped armyworms. Because of an earlier insecticide application for aphids, he, unfortunately, significantly reduced the presence of beneficial parasitic wasps. Caterpillar numbers were way above the threshold, and it was time for an insecticide application. Following the recommendation of his PCA, Joe decided to use Intrepid 2F. Here is the pre-harvest interval statement from the label. Do not apply within 7 days of hay harvest. There is no pre-harvest interval for forage. Joe sprayed the field on Tuesday, July 6th. He planned to harvest on Saturday, July 17th. He contracted with a swather, but there was a miscommunication, and the swather arrived on Saturday, July 10th instead. Now, think for a moment. Can the swather cut the alfalfa on July 10th without running the risk that Joe's alfalfa will have illegal residues? To answer, we need to understand how the pre-harvest interval is defined. Pre-harvest interval, sometimes abbreviated as PHI, is the interval between when a pesticide has been applied and when it is safe to harvest the crop. During this time period, harvest of that crop is prohibited. The pre-harvest interval is necessary to ensure that the crop will meet the established pesticide residue tolerances. The breakdown of residues is affected by the crop's growth, by environmental conditions such as rain or ultraviolet radiation, and by the microorganisms on the plants and in the soil. The PHI must therefore be long enough to allow the pesticide residues to degrade to a level that is acceptable. Hence, it is critical to know what is the PHI of the pesticide you're planning to use. Labels do not always specifically say PHI. There are many different ways in which pesticide manufacturers present PHI information on their labels. They may use wording like days to harvest or do not apply within 21 days of harvest. Another important fact to note is that the same pesticide may have different PHIs for different crops. Look at this example with diverse PHIs for various listed crops. Because there is sometimes a long list of application directions for many specific crops, make sure to check the full label, not only the part on the pesticide container. To decide on Joe's case, we also need clarification on what is meant by harvest. EPA defines harvest by the term reap. Reap is defined by cutting off the crop or when the plant ceases to be a living, growing organism. Producers are sometimes confused when it comes to crops that are cut, like grass and alfalfa, or crops that are dug from the ground and then allowed to dry in the field before being gathered, such as garlic, onions, and potatoes. However, EPA's definition of harvest is the moment when the plant is cut, picked, or dug out, not when it is gathered or removed from the field. Remember that the PHI of Intrepid 2F for alfalfa hay was 7 days. Now, it is clear that Joe cannot allow the swather to cut the hay on July 10th. He sprayed the crop on July 6th and needs to wait until at least July 13th before the alfalfa can be cut. Remember, the pesticide label is the law. Always read and follow the label directions. If in doubt, verify your understanding of the label with your county's Agricultural Commissioner office or with a PCA.